Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we are going to be talking about Ripple and XRP and basically the vast majority of crypto as well, because as we do focus on what's happening around crypto, mostly everyone is focused on price. What's going to happen next? A lot of people are concerned about the macroeconomic outlook. We will address that. So, today, we get the CPI numbers. By the time that this video goes live, we might already have seen them, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to report on what I see happening in the macro. You guys probably know me. I'm actually very bullish on 2023 up until around the end of quarter three. I do think that 2024 is going to be a pretty rough year, and I've outlined my thought process on this. I actually might do a separate video on my macro outlook and what I personally believe is going to happen. But nonetheless, let's start off with this tweet here, and let's talk about a few things happening right now around the world, specifically focusing on the US dollar and its devaluation process. So, billionaire John Paulson says that the US dollar's devaluation will drive gold up considerably this year. He says gold is likely to continue to appreciate in value over the next 3 to 5 years. Now, everyone has been looking at this and saying, okay, well, that means that Bitcoin's going to go to this price, that price. I even seen like a $500,000 call just earlier today by 2025. Now, are we going to see a $500,000 Bitcoin? Who am I to say no? But in my opinion, I don't believe that we see that. I think that the most that we see on Bitcoin, if we're talking about like the Wave 5 or the 2025 timeframe, it does not matter. I think that anywhere between, and I know that this is going to surprise a lot of people because, again, we don't need to have Bitcoin create an all-time high in order for altcoins to go parabolic, as we've seen in the last couple weeks. Basically, I've been looking at anywhere between $60,000 on Bitcoin to roughly about $120,000. I think that that is a fair position on Bitcoin. A lot of people will say, no way, it's going to go to 160, it's going to go to 200, it's going to go to 250. I don't really care about what anyone else believes on Bitcoin. I really just kind of play the overall chart and the narrative being pushed around crypto. But I will say I do believe that altcoins are going to go parabolic with Bitcoin and with commodities. Gold and silver, which I've told you guys that I've been a big buyer of physically, I believe that they will also do a great run up within the next couple years, considering the fact that we are leading up to a recession or a depression. But so far, right now, if we look at the jobs report, GDP growth and stuff, we're actually not in a recession, which is surprising to a lot of people. But let's take a look real quick at the dollar. So I've actually been looking at the dollar for a while. In fact, I do think that the dollar has topped officially back in September. Right now, the big sign to watch for is if the dollar is going to break out above 104 yet again, because this has been the area that I think we could see a dead cat bounce to. Which, hey, guess what? We already did. And I'm looking at something where we do come back down to test this demand range down here, where we eventually see a little bit of a dead cat bounce, continue to kind of just trail down and ultimately, get back down to like March 2020 lows, which would be down here at about like roughly 89, 90. Within that range, it's totally fine, but we'll have a little bit of a continuation down. It could happen all the way from our time frame back in September to around like September of 2025, which we have to still wait and see what the dollar is actually going to do. But I do think that the dollar is extremely weak. Why? Because of what is happening around the world. Now, also, what I do want to talk about is the BRICS. So we have been on the discussion of the BRICS for a while, and right now we just recently seen that China said that they would work with the BRICS partners to accelerate the growth and applications of countries interested in joining. Countries to look out for, I would say Saudi Arabia has been the biggest one, considering the petrodollar deal. Turkey, Egypt, Algeria, Iran, Argentina, UAE, Afghanistan, Indonesia, Nigeria, and also Thailand. 13 countries worldwide are interested. Now, yes, as we do look at a lot of what's happening around the world, I will say one thing is certain. We are seeing a new reserve currency being created. We are seeing currencies backed by gold being created. And when we look at what the BRICS are trying to do, they're trying to create a new reserve currency and a new financial system outside of, you've guessed it, the US. They are done utilizing the US dollar. They are done utilizing US weaponized systems, and they want to create their own system, their own currency that they would trade in outside of the US. Meaning, guess what? Goodbye, the US dollar. Hello, the new reserve currency. And if you think that I'm crazy for saying that this is going to be happening, well, did you look at the overall last year? Going back to March of 2022 is when we officially started to talk about the BRICS and what the BRICS were doing, because what they were doing was moving outside of the US fast within their own systems because of the sanctions put on them. And since then, we have seen them expand rapidly. Over here, we do see from Saudi Aramco, which is one of the biggest oil distributors in the world. We do see breaking news. Saudi Aramco is warning that an increased focus on climate was undermining investment in oil and gas to the point where it is now posed a threat to the world's energy security. This is one of the biggest companies in the world. The narrative is changing, sorry. And this is the chief executive of Saudi Aramco saying that mounting pressure to curb new investment in oil and gas was based on flawed assumptions. Now, what does this announcement have to do with anything? Well, we take a look at commodity supercycles. What causes a commodity supercycle? Well, if you look it up and if you look at the description of what a commodity supercycle is, fully derived from, it's basically described as a period of consistent and sustained price increases, usually driven by strong demand for raw materials, manufactured materials, and sources of energy lasting more than 5 years. What we are seeing in the US is a strong move away from oil and gas. But the problem is that this has undermined the investment in oil and gas as well, meaning at some point in time here soon, we are going to see a big push towards oil and gas yet again, and also commodities as well are going to skyrocket once this does happen. Outside of the US, oil and gas is still a big choice as an investment vehicle. But in the US, we have this narrative being pushed that, hey, we need to go green. We need to go green. We are going green. We don't want oil and gas anymore. But the biggest problem is guess why we are seeing that narrative? It's because we are losing dominance with the petrodollar deal. The petrodollar deal is finished. That's why we are not trying to assert dominance within that area and saying, hey, let's protect the petrodollar deal. They don't want to defend it. The US is done defending it because they know that it's fully finished. It's done. And I also think that as we focus on Saudi Arabia, we are starting to see the petrodollar deal kind of being announced as it's finished. For example, we do see down here, like the petrodollar, anyone? Question mark? Yeah, it's done. Russia's ambassador to the kingdom says Saudi Arabia is interested in joining the BRICS group alongside the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. When/if this happens, things will change significantly in the global financial system. Gold will stay the same. Now, when this does happen/if this does happen, guess what? The US dollar, as we focus on those lows, we focus on these lows because this is the area where the most, historically, this is where most of the support actually is for the US dollar. This is a significant demand area. This is an area that I believe will get retested yet again on the US dollar. And when it does happen, risk on assets will go crazy. This is why I say a commodity supercycle could very well be building. If we do get this test down here, I don't think that it's going to stop. Especially if this happens, right? Sorry, if this happens. If the petrodollar deal is fully announced as being finished, I want you guys to be prepared. Because this, I mean, the petrodollar deal being finished is the last major thing that we will need. Like, the US dollar needs the petrodollar deal. Why? Because that's what creates value for the US dollar. Without it, there's nothing backing the US dollar. So if we see Saudi Arabia turn to China, or turn to the BRICS, I should say, more so, then guess what? The US dollar as we know it is finished. We will see a new reserve currency, and we will see new systems being created around that new reserve currency. Now, is this 100% certain to happen? We have no idea, but we are starting to see big things happening outside of the US. The UAE, right? They just announced that they are planning to issue a central bank digital currency. The issuance of a digital version of the UAE's dirham is one of 9 initiatives of the central bank's financial infrastructure transformation program. We are seeing a global transformative move around currencies and around financial systems. Bank of England just announced their digital pound initiative roadmap that is going to introduce a new CBDC by 2030. All of this is moving extremely fast. And it's not a matter of if, but it's when. 90% of all central banks are exploring CBDCs. This is from a survey conducted by the BIS. This is happening. A lot of people will say, let's resist CBDCs. I want to ask everybody out there that is talking about resisting CBDCs, how long do you think it's going to last until we have CBDCs, no matter if you resist or not? Okay, I'm all for resisting against retail CBDCs. Wholesale CBDCs, they're going to happen. Because, again, the thing that allowed for this shift to happen outside of the U.S. in terms of these nations wanting to go against what the U.S. dollar is doing and what the U.S. is doing in general around the U.S. dollar, aka weaponizing the U.S. dollar as a currency, weaponizing SWIFT. The reason why we are seeing that shift happen is because of the US dollar being that reserve currency and being able to be utilized as a financial weapon. When we get rid of a reserve currency that is controlled by one nation, then guess what? We get rid of any weaponization of a currency in general. So that's why we are seeing a big push around CBDCs. That's why we are seeing these nations conduct research and studies and trials on CBDCs. We are seeing the end of fiat. Fiat as we know it is finished. Whether we want fiat to be finished or not, yes, they say cash will still exist and coexist with CBDCs, but the truth is nobody knows. The same way that nobody knows if CBDCs are good or bad for us. A lot of people think that CBDCs are going to control our everyday life. We have no idea what this could look like. We don't know what CBDCs are going to do. All we know is that it's a matter of when, not it's not a question of if, but when. Okay, and we are starting to see this being pushed by some of the largest nations out there. And as we look at the US dollar and as we look at the events leading up to the demise of the US dollar, things are more and more clear every single day. Outside of the US, we still see a big interest in commodities and oil and gas. And as we see that, guess what? The US is not only falling behind, but the US, as a reserve currency with the US dollar, this is pretty much a done deal. It's done. It's finished. So focus on commodities. Focus on risk on asset classes. I do believe that crypto itself is going to do very well. I also believe that gold is going to do very well. I think that a lot of people are going to start positioning their currencies, whether it be the US dollar or any other currency, in gold and crypto and silver, etc. So focus on the bigger picture here. Everyone wants to focus on the recession, on the depression. This is much larger than that. We are seeing an evolution change around the current financial system. And I want you all to understand that it all starts with what's happening with the BRICS around the US dollar. The BRICS are expanding day by day. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on if you guys have more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. So I hope that you all have a beautiful day, a beautiful night, wherever you guys are on this before. This has been Nick. Peace out, guys.